Good morning, everyone, and welcome to NYSE Live. I'm Kristen Scholler here in studio at the stock exchange. Well, the major indices are fractionally lower this morning as volatility in precious metals does lead to a risk-off sentiment. Still, the S&P 500 is just about 1% from its all-time high, surpassing 7,000 last week for the first time ever. It's going to be a busy week on Wall Street. Investors will be paying close attention to corporate results throughout the week, including from NYSE-listed Disney, which reported results this morning. Tech giants Alphabet and Amazon set to report in the coming days. And on Friday, the Bureau of Labor Statistics will release the January jobs report ahead of the market open, giving traders a fresh look at the state of the U.S. economy. We got an action-packed show today alongside an action-packed session at the NYSE. AstraZeneca is set to begin trade on the New York Stock Exchange, marking the largest company transfer by market capitalization in the 233-year history of the exchange. We'll have more details on that listing and its transfer throughout. Plus, NYSE Partnership Day takes place later on, and it's going to bring together content creators and leaders from platforms to rethink how we can build a partnership network, bridging capital, culture, and creativity. The NYSE's head of content, media partnerships, and distribution, Joe Benaroche, is going to join me in just a moment with more. At 9:30 a.m. Eastern, we'll take you live to that opening bell podium as we always do. Compass International Holdings ringing the opening bell to celebrate the merger between Compass and Anywhere Real Estate. This move unites about 340,000 real estate professionals across 120 countries. As I mentioned earlier, it's a big day here at the NYSE. The New York Stock Exchange is hosting its second annual Partnership Day, and it's going to highlight members of the NYSE community like TBPN, Yahoo, LinkedIn, and Reach TV, showcasing their work with the exchange. Joining me now with more is Joe Benaroche. He's head of content, media partnerships, and distribution at the New York Stock Exchange. Joe, welcome.
Oh my gosh, I love it. This is great.
Congratulations.
Well, thank you. You're a massive part of this day.
A big day for all of these incredible partnerships that you've inked here at the New York Stock Exchange. What does this event entail?
Well, I love that today AstraZeneca is listing on this day. And the reason I say that is because when you think of the New York Stock Exchange, you immediately think of the biggest platform for companies to reshape their narrative, tell their stories, and you think of them in one aspect as us as a financial institution, and we are, and that totally makes sense. And on the other part of it, we are a massive storytelling powerhouse. And we have equipped ourselves with the best partners, the right technology, and we have created content in ways that I think would surprise many. And today, it brings all of that community together. We are the largest exchange in the world, and we are a convening institution. And today is a really great way to showcase all of the work you're doing, all of the work Charlotte and team are doing, and you get to say, okay, thank you to our partners. You get to showcase their success. You get to bring on new partners and create more ideas, and that's a wonderful thing, and it's a really big competitive advantage for the exchange itself.
It's great to see in that first annual Partnership Day, we saw more than 250 attendees here at the New York Stock Exchange, and leaders from outlets like TBPN, LinkedIn, LA Times. They are going to be showcased. What stands out to you among some of these marquee partnerships?
I love the question, and that's perfect because in your question, you highlighted a range of different partners across the media ecosystem. You know, if you look at just the New York Stock Exchange in general, just given its history, we have rode every single wave of technology. Every company that has had a technological innovation, from the telegraph to AI, from the early days of broadcast to different types of platforms coming into the picture. The New York Stock Exchange has been there. It has always been the backdrop for how those companies will then move forward on a capital raise. If you equally look at all of the partners that we're working with, the New York Stock Exchange has to mirror what's happening right now as it relates in the media landscape. Because if we're going to say to all of these companies, whether you're a private company or a public company that's listed here, or you're one of our partners and you want to leverage the New York Stock Exchange as a backdrop, well, we have to have as many options for you as possible. TBPN, new massive video player that is not just a podcast, they're a video creator. Then you have LinkedIn, not just a platform for us to organically post, but a platform for us to create news. It's also a platform where all of these other news networks get to share their information. You mentioned Reach TV, you mentioned the LA Times Media Group. We have CNBC that we've extended our partnership. Dow Jones, they're not just reporting from the floor, we're showing up at the World Economic Forum with them. We'll show up with them in Cannes. So we've broadened the way in which we look at partners, everyone from a standalone content creator to an up-and-coming new media like Axios to more, I would say, foundational players in the market. And equally, we're looking at ad tech partners. We're looking at the platforms in different ways, and all of that matters. All of that matters. If you want to create optionality and scale for your listed community and for all of the companies, the private companies that you're working with, you need to have that range of partnerships.
You mentioned those buzzwords, optionality and scale, and I want to focus in on that a bit because we recently saw, in fact, a deepening of the relationship between the NYSE and Yahoo. Anything more you can share there?
Great segue. That's actually that's a strong partner. I think that's somewhat emblematic of what we're talking about because Brian Sozzi and team, they come here and report from the floor. Julie Hyman, that group, we want that, and we want more of that, and I think we've seen a higher demand in just people leveraging the stock exchange as a backdrop to their broadcast stories, or their news stories, excuse me. In equal parts, those are platforms that aggregate news. You're a content creator, Kristen, you, Ashley, you have Mel and Jeff, everyone pulling together content on a daily basis. Hundreds and hundreds of videos. You're talking to CEOs every single day, from the private sector to the public sector to all of our service partners, etc. We want to make sure that, as I mentioned, yes, they have options to have that conversation, but to your exact point, we want that content to scale. We want that content to have life beyond just our owned and operated channels. And NYSE and all the content we create is not competitive to any news network. It's additive. So with Yahoo Finance, now all of our content is starting to be aggregated on yahoo.com. And just on Yahoo Finance alone, it has 150 million monthly active users every month. Just the platform itself has 700 million. So that is an incredible aspect of scale. And it's not just Yahoo, it's many others. But Yahoo is, I think, a great example of us deepening our relationship and equally then having a monetizable partnership with them.
Joe, before we have to let you go, because you got a big day to prep for, what are you hoping attendees take away from today's event?
Thank you. I want them to feel celebrated. I want them to know that when they are part of this partnership network, everyone benefits. Every single partner in that room, while they're a partner for us and for all of our listed in public or listed in private companies, that equally all of them are benefiting from the partnership. Because when you create a community like the one that we have created, everyone can benefit, and I think everyone can see exponential progress in just the short term if we just start by starting. So when we talk today, you're going to see that you being a part of this gives you added benefit. There's a big value exchange there. And I want people to feel celebrated, and I also want people to walk away thinking about one more idea that we can do together in the coming year.
We are ready to be a part of this celebration. Joe Benaroche.
Thank you for everything you do.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, I'm excited indeed. He is the head of content, media partnerships, and distribution at the New York Stock Exchange. Joe, have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, everyone, well, stay with us because up next, an AI company called Kong is hosting an event of its own here at the Exchange, and it just broke some news ahead of it. We'll have more on that story up next.
As we stand on the cusp of America's 250th anniversary, we're reminded of the principles that have powered the world's greatest economy.
The New York Stock Exchange is a cathedral of the capital markets, replete with rhythms and rituals that allocate resources towards socially valued uses. That story will reach a rare milestone when our republic marks its 250th year. Anniversaries of this magnitude demand more than just ceremony. They ask something of us. They invite us to reflect, to ensure that the future that we shape will prove to be worthy of the legacy that we've inherited.
Welcome back to NYSE Live. Tech company Kong is at the stock exchange today as it hosts the Why AI Connectivity Matters event. The firm is also breaking some news this morning, and for more on that story, I do want to send things down to NYSE content creator Ashley Masternardi, who's on the floor with more. Ashley, good morning.
Good morning, Kristen. Just about 10 minutes ago, Kong announced that it's unveiling its AI connectivity vision and roadmap, which is helping enterprises connect, govern, and scale artificial intelligence. Joining me now for more on this is Augusto Marietti. He is the co-founder and CEO of Kong. Augusto, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
So before we dive into today's news about the event, what is the significance of this announcement?
Well, it's really the creation of AI connectivity as a category, which is the blend of APIs, model, LLM, and agents on how they talk to each other, how do they connect to each other. So it's a way, it's the technology to unleash intelligence across enterprise in a safe way, is an accelerated way, in a fast way. That's what it's AI connectivity.
And in the most basic sense, if you can break down AI connectivity so anyone listening can understand, what is it doing?
Now think about it like if you think about a body as being a company, AI connectivity is really the nervous system. It's how all the pieces comes together and connect and communicate to each other, from applications to events to data to agents, and it's the creation of this kind of AI data path, this AI traffic flow on how all the intelligence move across the enterprise. Think about like the modern railroads of AI. That's what AI connectivity is.
All right, and you're hosting this event on AI connectivity here at the New York Stock Exchange. It is a live stream. What will you be discussing at the event?
So we have a lot of customers coming, and obviously as a pragmatic example of what they're doing with their APIs, with their AI traffic, the world is moving to a tokens-based economy. And in the most important thing of a token-based economy, there is really two big vectors. One is token per watt and token per seconds. Those two variables define the revenue of every company in the futures. So we're going to talk and discuss about how we can optimize those two variables, and you do optimize them with an AI connectivity platform. This is what we provide. So that's what we're going to talk about, and we're very excited.
What separates Kong from other platforms providing AI connectivity?
Well, we're kind of the only one to build this kind of control tower of AI, where it helps manage different entities from APIs to models to LLM in a unified way. There is really no other company that is unifying different type of traffic together. So that's one. The second is the speed and the technology that we build over now 10 years, we're working with very large companies. It's about how you kind of accelerate that API traffic, how you accelerate the AI traffic. And so the technology we built, it's made for this world where we're going to trillions or even quadrillions of tokens, trillions of API calls at scale with no latency, no error rates, doing this in a reliable way, fast and secure. That's the hard part, and that's what we've been building for many years.
And what is next for Kong in the next 30 seconds?
The next for Kong is keep building and keep helping customers and keep accelerating on the eye connectivity technology. We have a lot that we can announce today that we have along in this fiscal year in new products and new technology and new control plane to help manage AI traffic for our customers. So there is a packed roadmap ahead of us.
And I understand this is an open live stream. How can people sign up for it starting at 10 a.m. today?
Probably best is konghq.com and go there and try it out.
All right, Augie Marietti, thank you so much for joining us at the New York Stock Exchange. Kristen, it's an exciting morning for Kong here at the NYSE. I'm going to send things back up to you in the studio.
Ashley Masternardi down there on the trading floor for us. Ashley, thank you. And stay with us, everyone, because coming up on NYSE Live, AstraZeneca makes history today, and we'll have those details after a short break.
New York Stock Exchange is a cathedral of the capital markets. So there are a few places more fitting to consider the future of the American financial system than this one.
At the NYSE, we applaud SEC Chairman Atkins and the entire Trump administration for working to reduce the burdens on existing public companies and soon-to-be public companies.
I believe that we will ensure that the American story, which began in many ways just steps outside, is preserved not by memory or speeches alone, but by the courage of those who are determined to chart its next chapter.
When we talk about the titans of industry and we talk about the titans of finance, there's a reason that we're all coming together still after all these years to the corner of Wall and Broad Street.
We are ringing the opening bell this morning to celebrate the launch of 6 new ETFs by direction.
We look forward to many more. I mean, today's 6, we're going to do hundreds more.
The New York Stock Exchange, the home of ETFs.
Welcome back to NYSE Live. Today, AstraZeneca starts trading its ordinary shares on the New York Stock Exchange under the ticker symbol AZN. It marks the biggest company transfer by market capitalization in history of the NYSE. This move underscores AstraZeneca's commitment to science and innovation and accelerates the company's ability to deliver more innovative medicines to patients in the U.S. and around the world. Well, staying on the topic of healthcare, I recently sat down with FDA Commissioner Dr. Marty Makary on the trading floor, and he shared his vision for how he's looking to modernize the agency. Let's take a look.
Well, I was a cancer surgeon at Johns Hopkins before coming to the FDA, and when you're at the bedside of a patient, especially when you have to break bad news, you want to think about why are there hurdles and barriers and idle time in bringing more cures to patients. And so we've got to challenge the deeply held assumption that it needs to take 10 to 12 years for a new drug to come to market. So we're doing a lot on the streamlining and modernization side. We've reduced animal testing requirements. Many of the animal tests are not necessary. We've announced just recently allowing real-world data to be admitted to FDA applications. The requirements in the past for real-world data to be in the application has been so onerous that hardly any approved drugs have actually used real-world data. We can learn a lot from real-world experiences. We've reduced the clinical trial requirement from 2 pivotal trials to 1 pivotal trial, which allows companies to run double the number of drugs through these trials. So we want to reduce unnecessary waste and idle time. It turns out you can achieve the same statistical power with 1 well-designed, well-controlled trial as you can with 2. And so we're doing a lot on the side of increasing predictability for the agency, streamlining the process, and reducing the R&D costs by changing the requirements so they're common sense and yet still maintaining our goal of ensuring public safety.
Is there a way to quantify the drug development efficiency that you anticipate to see under your leadership at the FDA, including in some of these high-need areas?
There is. I think, first of all, I'd like to see in our time at the agency a cure or meaningful treatment for type 1 diabetes, for some neurodegenerative cruel diseases, for certain phases of cancer where we've seen in early studies drugs melt away a cancer so you don't need surgery or chemo or radiation. I mean, these game-changing results, like the one we just saw published for multiple myeloma, they deserve a rapid review. So we have a new pilot program to get decisions out from the FDA in a matter of weeks. Now that's unprecedented, but we're doing this in a pilot program to evaluate what can we do better to reduce idle time and use our convening power rather than farm the applications out to separate agencies. We also need more clear guidance to companies so they don't have to do guesswork, which can add a lot of time and expense for companies. We want to make the process clearer and more transparent. And so one of the things we did is to make our rejection letters public information for the first time in FDA history, so that drug developers can see exactly how the reviewers in a particular study section think in what they want to see in a trial.
I do want to talk about trust in the FDA. We did see it come under pressure during the coronavirus pandemic.
Yes.
Now, as you're at the helm in 2025 of the FDA, how are you looking to restore confidence in the agency?
Well, first of all, I'm very proud of the medical profession. And to see that public trust in doctors and hospitals went from 71% of the public trusting us in 2019 to just 40% last year, the year before I came to the FDA, that is an American tragedy. And so we've got to show humility. During COVID, sometimes the right answer was, we don't know, and we should have said that. And we're going to do everything we can to show humility in our work. We're going to make adverse events transparent on a daily basis. We're going to modernize the agency. We're going to do what we can to be honest with people. We just announced that we're revising the black box warnings on hormone replacement therapy for postmenopausal women. They were fueling a 23-year-old dogma that hormone therapy for postmenopausal women is going to increase your risk of dying of breast cancer when no clinical trial has ever supported it. So where we can be more honest, we're doing the same with the OxyContin label, which has not been appropriately updated. So we're going to do everything we can to be honest with the public and let people know what we're thinking in real time as we're thinking about new reforms.
For our viewers listening, they might not be surprised then to know that you have called for radical transparency when it comes to regulatory decisions. What more does that mean in practice?
I think it means that if the agency decides not to approve a drug, the public deserves to know exactly why. And so there's been an era where corporations have shown some optimism with their FDA decisions that have not been favorable. I don't blame them. They're trying to get investment into their company for a drug that they may really believe in. But that corporate spin on FDA results has resulted in investors sort of flying blind sometimes. And it turns out that in one analysis, 80% of FDA decisions that were not favorable to companies were not truthfully represented to the public. And so what we're doing by making our decision letters public is we're getting rid of that sort of confusion so people can see exactly why, and they deserve to know why. It increases accountability, and I think it'll help restore trust.
You've called for a healthier national food supply. How does the FDA navigate between public health protection and commercial pressures?
Yeah, so we've got to consider everything in this job. Now, one of our biggest goals is healthier food for children. We have a food supply that has increasingly shifted to an ultra-processed food supply with broken guidance from the FDA and the USDA on what nutrition is, what food is. And so we're rewriting the food pyramid, and then nutritional guidance will be out in a matter of weeks. We're going to set the record straight. We're going to tell people the truth, that it's not just calories in equals calories out. It's the type of food that gives you calories. We want to promote healthy food, whole foods, food that comes from healthy soil, from good farming practices, the importance of fiber. You can't just strip fiber out of grains, chop up the grains so it functions like sugar, and tell people that this is healthy. So we're going to be doing a massive initiative in this space of food. We already announced we're taking action to remove all 9 petroleum-based food dyes from the U.S. food supply. It's been hugely popular in the United States on a bipartisan level. We have approved natural food dyes with natural ingredients to replace the artificial food dyes. We've done that at record speed in a matter of months. And we're also evaluating all the chemicals that are in the US food supply that are banned in Europe. And that's because we've had this old regulation called GRAS. We are revising GRAS, we are closing the loophole, and we are going to be talking about things that have not been talked about before. We're talking now in this administration about natural light exposure for children. We're talking about the importance of exercise. We had an expert panel recently on testosterone therapy for men with low testosterone. These are public health issues that we've shied away from that we need to be able to tackle head on and talk about the latest evidence around.
All right, thanks again to the FDA Commissioner, Dr. Marty Makary, for that interview. You're taking a live look there on the right-hand side of Compass and its CEO, Robert Redkin. He is making his way up to the opening bell podium, of course, to ring the opening bell, and this real estate company on site to celebrate its newly combined organization, taking some photos before Robert Redkin makes his way up to that podium to open equity markets. We'll have more on the other side of this short break.
"16 years ago, an anonymous person released an idea onto the internet. No identity, no institution behind it, no marketing strategy. It was just a white paper and a challenge to everything we thought about money. What if money were open instead of closed? What if it belonged to everyone instead of being controlled by a few? Bitcoin survived every attempt to kill it, because the idea itself was stronger than the forces that tried to stop it. And now, today, inside one of the most iconic institutions in the world of finance, we honor a creator who never asked for credit, never stood in front of cameras, and ultimately stepped away so that the idea could stand on its own. Satoshi Nakamoto.
Why are we here? Because Magnum Ice Cream Company is an ambitious company. We're all about growth. And for growth, you need people and you need to have belief that focus on only ice cream will propel this business. These folks here in the room wake up every morning thinking about ice cream, and they go to bed thinking about ice cream, and that's why it will be a successful company that delights the world with unbelievable products.
Welcome back to NYSE Live. Just a moment here, NYSE-listed real estate firm Compass International Holdings will ring the opening bell. It's on hand to celebrate the recent merger between Compass and Anywhere Real Estate. This combined company claims to be one of the world's largest residential brokerages. Compass International Holdings says it's focused on developing a single tech platform while maintaining the identities of major brokerage brands like Coldwell Banker and Century 21. Compass International is aiming to unite about 340,000 real estate professionals across 120 countries. And its founder, chairman, and CEO, Robert Redkin, is going to do the honors of ringing today's opening bell. You see him on the podium there alongside listing representative Joe Tama. And let's take a listen as equity markets open. You're taking a live look there at Compass International Holdings that you saw ring the opening bell, an NYSE listed company on hand again to celebrate a recent deal. Well, we're officially off to the races, and stocks we had seen were set to open fractionally lower. We've seen volatility in the precious metals space. Of course, that did emanate or pick up, if you will, after President Donald Trump announced his pick for the new Fed chair on Friday. Joining me now to talk markets is Eddie Gabor. He's co-founder and CEO of Key Advisors Wealth Management. Eddie, great to have you on the show this morning. And let's start with where we stand. Just a fractional loss for the S&P 500, down about 0.3%, still about 1% from its all-time high. What's behind these moves?
You know, I think last week, let's not forget, we were at all-time highs in the S&P last Thursday or last Wednesday. And I think this nomination of Kevin Warsh just scared the market because in the past, he's talked about reducing the balance sheet of the Fed, not a real fan of QE. And I believe, like the markets always do initially, is overreact to the downside. I think at the end of the day, Kevin Warsh will look at the data. And if the data supports to stay dovish and loosen monetary policy, I think that he will. I think there's a high probability that inflation actually decelerates over the next few months, which is not consensus. So that will give him and the current Fed the opportunity to actually stay dovish. So I look at this as a buying opportunity in the economically sensitive areas because I think the market is really overreacting. He's not even in there yet, and the market's trying to price in what his policy will look like. And that's a little premature, in my opinion.
Okay. And in terms of these economic sensitive sectors, Eddie, walk us through some of those areas that stand out to you.
So we've been rotating out of tech and going into areas like financials, industrials, small caps, and housing. Those are the areas that we like. We think those areas will do well because we are looking at this economy as growth accelerating over the next few months. I think the growth is going to exceed expectations, and those areas are really outperforming tech and S&P when you look at it. And I think it's because they're telling you that the economy is going to surprise to the upside. So I would take any weakness in those areas for the right risk tolerance to add, as we have for our clients.
Mm-hmm. What a consolidation, if you will. I mean, again, the S&P 500, it's a pullback, but down just about 1% from its all-time high. Is that healthy at this stage in the game based on where markets are?
I think volatility is healthy as long as it's controlled. What we don't like to see is like what we saw with the metals or like with crypto, these huge moves. When you have that type of volatility and the volatility index spikes as high as it does in those sectors, that's a problem. But in the broad market, VIX is having a hard time getting over 19 to 20. So as long as it stays under 20, it's a good place to be. So volatility is to be expected in this type of environment. But overall, the broad market is holding up just fine. The panic attack areas are in the areas that have had the most speculation this month.
Mm-hmm. Walk us through the volatility that we see in the precious metal space and why, Eddie, we are seeing that there seems to be a correlation with stocks, that some of the weakness or pullback, if you will, in precious metals is impacting the major indices.
Well, when you take a look at gold, for example, it has had an amazing run. So unless you bought real late, this correction that you've had in gold should not have hurt your overall performance as a whole. It's done amazing. I think the problem is it got really crowded and you saw people really start to speculate and leverage up. That's why you saw that real vertical move before you had the big drop. But I think the drop in that is because, again, the market reacting to Warsh and maybe having the dollar get really strong under his leadership, and the commodities market just needed one news to cause a big sell-off because it was so crowded. I do think things will stabilize in that market and potentially could be an opportunity to start dollar cost averaging back in for those that have not benefited from the gold trade.
Okay, so it sounds like you are still bullish on gold despite some of the volatility. Eddie, is that the case?
That is the case. We still own gold for clients. We did trim. I tweeted it out. I believe it was last Wednesday that we actually trimmed some gold. But with this big sell-off we had in such a short period of time, we will be buying back gold. We think the story is still intact for gold. And again, we're going to let Kevin Warsh see what he does, but we think he's going to be more dovish than the market's currently pricing in.
What should our viewers be following when it comes to the 10-year Treasury yield, Eddie, and the U.S. dollar as it pertains to their portfolio?
To us, the 10-year Treasury is the biggest risk to the equity markets. If we start to get towards that 4.75% range in the 10-year because of an acceleration of inflation, that's going to be a real problem. We don't think that's not a concern for us here, intermediate, over the next several months. But we want to look at that. And, of course, the dollar. If the dollar gets really bullish and strengthens quite a bit, that's going to hurt the equity markets as well, too. We think technology is going to struggle regardless, which is why we are rotating out, and we will sell any strength in the month of February in technology. But right now, we keep a close eye on rates and the dollar, but it's not an immediate concern for us. So we think this panic attack is a buying opportunity.
Eddie Gabor, co-founder and CEO at Key Advisors Wealth Management. Eddie, thanks so much for joining.
Thanks for having me.
All right, everyone. Well, still to come as we take a live look of the trading floor, David Margolin, senior meteorologist for the NYSE's parent company, ICE, says we just experienced the coldest end of January in over 35 years. He's going to join me in studio with more on these frosty conditions and their impact. Plus, M&C Sashi was among companies at last month's CES in Las Vegas, and its CEO sat down with JD Durkin to explain how it is helping brands navigate the new tech ecosystem. Later on, NYSE-listed NCR Voyix was at the recent ICR conference in Florida, and a member of its executive team revealed to Ashley Mastronardi what's kept the business going for over 140 years. Stay with us on NYSE Live.
Just so honored and so grateful to you, Lynn, for welcoming us to announce our Time Person of the Year, the architects of AI. I want to take a moment to welcome Chris Lehane. You have been an incredible driving force, making AI accessible to everyone, and we are so glad that you are here with us today. We are focusing on the leaders and the people and the humans that are imagining and building this future that we will all be living in.
We had somebody ask us recently, why are you going out at this time of the year? The reason we're doing this is for our people. It's not about us. Our motivation for doing this transaction is to make this a better place for the next generation. We have a stewardship responsibility to our people to give them a professional and a financial opportunity that's better than what we have. And what I am very proud of is the team that we have here. This is a true partnership in every sense of the word.
Welcome back to NYSE Live. Another weekend, another round of wind, ice, and snow in parts of the U.S. And according to ICE's senior meteorologist, David Margolin, the final 10 days of January were the coldest since 1990. Well, just this morning, the groundhog saw his shadow, predicting 6 more weeks of winter. But what does ICE's senior meteorologist see? He's joining us in studio with more. Dave, it's great to have you.
It's great to be here. Thank you.
Is this bad that the groundhog saw his shadow today?
Well, I hate to disagree with the groundhog, but actually we are seeing some signs of change. We actually expect a pattern change as we move into the middle of February. So we're hoping the groundhog's wrong on this.
Okay, so pattern change. I like to see that 2 weeks out or so. But let's talk about what was, right? January was absolutely frigid. We're now just in the second day of February. How do these numbers and data stack up?
Yeah, as you said earlier, this is one of the colder patterns we've seen probably in about 10 years. So some of the folks may remember the winter of 13-14 and even 14-15. That was probably the last time we really had like an extended period of significant cold like this. And it finished, as you mentioned, with the last 10 days of January, not only maybe the coldest since 1990, but really you have to go back to the 60s to see an extended period of cold across the United States.
What impact does cold weather like that have other than, you know, for us at home needing to buy a bunch of blankets to stay warm?
Yeah, so certainly, you know, I'm most familiar with the commodities or energy commodities, and we did see a significant impact there. So a lot of times when it's cold in like natural gas markets, we talk about the demand. And of course, the demand goes up. Everyone's cranking up the heat and things. But it also can, when it gets really cold, it can impact the supply. And that's what we saw. So where they were taking gas out of the ground, like across Texas and Oklahoma, it was so cold that what occurred were what we call freeze-offs, and it actually had significant impact. In other words, it was so cold it was causing ice where they normally draw the gas out, and so it actually decreased the amount we were able to pull out of the ground by as much as 60 or 70 BCF. So it was pretty significant.
What does it mean that this extreme weather, as you referenced there, really did sweep across almost the entire country, even as south as Florida?